I'm 31, and I've been with my wife, Emily, who's 30, for 10 years now. We've been married for 3 of those years. We first met back in college, and we were each other's first real relationship. I dated a bit in high school, but none of it ever went anywhere serious. I mean, there was one girl I thought things might progress with, but she ended up cheating on me before we got to that point. Emily grew up in a strict household, so college was her first real chance to explore anything. She had her first drink there, tried weed for the first time, and, with me, had sex for the first time. Because she didn't get much of a chance to experiment before that, she's always been a little prone to giving in to peer pressure. Her college friends were the party-hard type, though the friends we've made since then are way more laid back. That difference might be important here. Early in our relationship, Emily used to see her friends hooking up with different people and sometimes told me she wished we'd met later so she could have had a chance to experience that too. She always reassured me she'd never risk what we had, and it's been years since she's said anything like that. For what it's worth, I think she's gorgeous, but she's never been super into things like fashion, dressing up, or fitness. Both of us have jobs with pretty demanding schedules, and Emily sometimes requires her to travel. Looking back, I realized something started shifting about a year ago after she returned from one of her work trips. I didn't notice it right away because it was all small stuff at first, but now, thinking it through, that trip stands out to me. Right after she got back, Emily began taking her phone everywhere. I mean, she wouldn't leave a room without it, not even for a second. Not long after, she started going on evening walks after work. Since we live in a big city, that didn't seem too unusual. I have different work hours, so joining her for these walks wasn't really an option for me. Then, about 8 months ago, she began hitting the gym 3 times a week. That was surprising because Emily was never one to enjoy working out. Around the same time, she bought some tighter workout outfits. At first I thought it was great. Who doesn't like seeing their wife looking amazing in gym clothes? But with our schedules being so off, I didn't really get to see her in them much anyway. She also started taking mirror selfies in these outfits. When I jokingly asked if they were for me, she laughed and said she was just keeping track of how she looked in each outfit. She explained it was to make picking clothes easier for work, our date nights, or the gym. That's when I started to feel a little uneasy. There have been times over the years when Emily would ask me to unlock her phone or laptop for her while her hands were tied up with something. It was never a big deal. But a few months ago, when she asked me to unlock her computer, I noticed her password had changed. She gave me the new one without hesitation, but it still got me thinking, and not in a good way. About 3 months ago, we went to a housewarming party for some friends we'd made after college. They're the mellow type, not huge into partying, but we all ended up drinking more than we probably should have. Someone suggested playing Never Have I Ever, a game Emily and I are very familiar with. So I know she understands how it works and when to take a drink. By the time the game was in full swing, Emily was pretty drunk. When she drinks, all the leftover strictness from her upbringing tends to vanish completely. At one point a friend said, "Never have I ever had a guy finish on my face." A few people took a sip, but it wasn't enough for anyone to stand out if they didn't drink. Still, Emily took a drink. Later someone else said, "Never have I ever had anal sex." Once again, Emily took a sip. Here's the thing, Emily's always been pretty straightforward in the bedroom. Those aren't things she's ever been comfortable trying with me. I tried brushing it off, thinking maybe she was too drunk to follow the rules properly or just wanted another sip right at those moments. But it sat with me, nagging in the back of my mind. A few days later, I asked her about it. She said she didn't even remember doing it but figured she must have made a mistake if she did drink during those rounds. Then, not long after that, something else happened that left me uneasy. Emily had gone for her annual checkup, and a few days later, she got a letter in the mail from her doctor. I happened to be standing next to her when she opened it, and I thought I caught a glimpse of something about an STD or STI test. I wasn't sure, though. I don't know if women routinely get those tests during their checkups. I've never had one myself since Emily is the only person I've ever been with, and I've never felt the need. Later that day, I noticed she had ripped up the letter and thrown it in the trash before taking the garbage out. She sometimes shreds sensitive documents, so it wasn't completely out of the ordinary, but given everything else, it didn't sit right with me. To sum up what I've been noticing, my wife, Emily, has been acting differently ever since she got back from a work trip last July. She's almost never willing to leave her phone out of her sight now. She's started paying way more attention to her appearance, and she goes to the gym 3 times a week, something she never cared about before we got married. On top of that, she takes long solo walks after work. None of these things on their own would seem suspicious, but when you put them all together, it feels like a pattern. What really got under my skin was when we played Never Have I Ever with some friends. Emily drank for things we've never done in the bedroom. And then, not long after, I thought I saw her opening a letter from her doctor with what looked like STD or STI test results after her annual checkup. Since then, a few things have happened. I managed to casually bring up the topic of those tests without making it seem like I was accusing her of anything. I asked if she'd ever had to get tested as part of her checkups. She told me no, and that it wouldn't make sense since we both lost our virginity to each other. Why would she need one? Honestly, I'm not completely sure about what I saw on that letter, so it's possible she's being truthful. Now she's getting ready for another work trip that starts Monday, and she seems unusually excited about this one. She's been on a few trips since last July, and every time, it leaves me feeling more uneasy. What's different about this trip is what I found while helping with the laundry. Among her clothes were several new pairs of thong underwear. Emily's never been into thongs. She usually sticks to basic cotton bikini-style panties. But these? They were skimpy, and one of them was just a thin string in the back. Don't get me wrong, just like with the tight gym clothes, I'd love to see her in them. But it doesn't seem like her at all, and I can't figure out why she'd suddenly start wearing them now. I brought it up earlier today, and she just brushed it off, saying she needed new underwear. Still, with everything else going on, it just doesn't sit right with me. To sum up, ever since Emily came back from a work trip last July, her behavior has been different. She's paying way more attention to her appearance, keeps her phone close at all times, and has hinted at doing things in the bedroom that we haven't done together. I went into more detail about that in earlier posts. Recently, just before another work trip, she bought some very sexy thongs, definitely not her usual style of underwear. Following advice from commenters on my last post, I decided to hire a private investigator to keep an eye on her during this trip. While she was gone, I also got tested for STDs, just to be sure, and arranged to take some time off work for when she returned. I wanted to be prepared in case the PI found something, and I needed to make some big decisions. Thankfully, the PI didn't uncover anything suspicious during her trip. That doesn't mean nothing happened on earlier trips, but at least this one didn't provide any concrete evidence. As for my STD tests, everything came back clean, and I realized that the letter I thought I saw might not have been test results after all. Once she got back, I used my time off to discreetly check out her routines, specifically her gym sessions and those long walks she takes after work. I felt a bit guilty sneaking around like that, but I needed to know for sure. I didn't find anything. She worked out alone, just listening to music, and during her walk, she sat in the park for a short while before heading home. Her behavior still feels off to me, but I don't have anything concrete to confront her about. When I asked her again about some of the changes, she explained that turning 30 made her more focused on staying fit and looking her best. That's why she's been hitting the gym and caring more about her appearance. As for her phone, she said she's just as protective as anyone else would be. At this point, I feel stuck. I haven't found any solid evidence of wrongdoing, but something still doesn't feel right. I've checked everything I can think of. She doesn't have any dating apps installed, and I couldn't find incriminating messages on her phone, at least not any that weren't already deleted. Does anyone have other suggestions on what I could look into? We're on separate phone plans, so checking her logs isn't an easy option for me.